Hey, welcome everyone to a Father Forever podcast. I believe this is number 8, and I'm privileged and honored to have this young man, 26-year-old Malcolm. A fine young man. We'll get into how great he is, as we talk and discuss. But Malcolm, I want to thank you for being on this podcast,
it's a pleasure to be here, bro.
I'm excited, man. So we can I want people to know, the kind of young man that you are. I know you come from a great family, and you went to college and all that stuff, right?
You graduated and everything.
Yeah. So we're gonna go through those places, those pieces, and all that.
For sure.
Because it's not easy.
Yeah, I agree.
With the mom and dad in the home, it still isn't easy, right? So at a Father Forever, man, we really pursue and we validate the value of a father.
Yes, I agree.
Real
pivotal.
Let's talk a little bit about your dad, man. The role that he has played in your life and how he impacted your life with the discipline, with the love, the direction, with the guidance. Let's talk about your dad.
I mean, my biggest hero before I had a favorite NBA player, before I had a favorite NFL player, I think my biggest hero is my father. Nice. I think going forward, growing up, and very at a young age, those memories are still forming. But one of my closest memories I remember, I'm 4 years old at King Drew. He's playing at the Drew League. He jumped so high when he dunked that he hit his face. He cut his face on the rim.
On the rim?
On the rim. And they had to stop the game, bro.
He had a little blood coming down, man.
He had some all by his nose, bro. And it really just I didn't understand it, but seeing my dad dunk that hard and just play basketball for so long as me growing up, just being in those gyms, it really taught me, wow, this dude's amazing. First off, athletically, before even just being my dad, he's a really good basketball player, bro. So that pushed me, to really, he was my hero. Anything he did, any problem we had, if it wasn't basketball at the house, fix everything, landscaping, plumber. His car got messed up with his Volkswagen. He's one of the main people to be outside fixing it. So he's really just a, jack of all trades, bro.
So even at a young age, at 4 and above, you noticed that your dad had a work ethic, great work ethic.
Yeah, and it was just, it wasn't regular, Now looking back at it, but as a kid, it was just anytime he walked in the room with family events, everybody's eyes, smiles brightened up, they loved him. And he really was just, just guy that works. If it wasn't just his job, it was taking my brother to practice, taking me to Baldwin Hills, And some days, going to that work ethic, I would come in the house, he'd just sit in the car, listen to the radio, and then he'd nod off, fall asleep. And I never understood why he falls asleep in a car at a young age. It's bro, wake up, come sleep inside while you're in the car. And he'd just be just tired, bro.
People are out, yeah.
Yeah, he's just tired.
Put the time in because, at a Father Forever, we let people know that the most difficult job in the world is not a brain surgeon, a scientist, an astronaut. It's being a parent, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
The most difficult job in the world is being a loving, a considering parent that's trying to direct, his child in the right direction and at the same time step back and let them learn on their own.
Yeah, be themselves too. And let the world teach them a little bit more, less than trying to tell them everything, man. And I think my parents both did an amazing job. I think they really, if it wasn't just regular intelligence, emotional intelligence, being able to express myself, being able to talk within arguments, and then having my father be able to hear me. Because, my dad, as strict as he was, he definitely was more lenient when it was if I didn't like something, I'm going to let him know about it. And, he gave me his wisdom and his advice on it. And that has helped me shape the way I talk to kids, being able to lead, at least giving them a buffer zone to talk and listen, and then be able to respond back after. So,
that's very important, man, because, when I speak to fathers, I said, the best thing you can do for your son or your daughter, because our baby girls need daddies just as bad as the baby boys do, right?
Yes.
The best thing you can do is listen to them, let them talk.
Yes.
Because they're trying to figure this thing called life out, trying to figure it out, man. And confusion comes into play. It's just normal. It's just normal, because life is hard. Life is difficult. But some fathers, they think they have to have it their way and this, that, and the other. Listen to your son or daughter, and see how they're feeling.
No, yeah, I definitely hear you talking about this. Life is hard situation. I know we're kind of skipping a few, kind of talking about like present day, but one thing that I have been dealing with hardships of saving money, car accidents, small things, and like I said, life can be hard, bro, and a lot of these things are fixed very quickly with a call of my pops. Like, if I didn't have my father in my life and I got a car accident, the body shop guy would have probably charged me over the head. My dad had the connection, the relationships, because he's been in these situations beforehand, and then when life happened, he's right there to prop me up. It's all good.
That's one of the things about being a father. See, like a lot of young guys don't understand it. We used to be young at one time too. See, we weren't always old. See, So and you learn how to navigate the waters, man. You learn how to walk the path a certain way, and we want the best for our children.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't do it for them. We have to kind of you don't want to go down this road. That road you may not want to go down. You may want to consider this road. Then you make your own choice.
Yeah.
You gotta make your own choice. So,
definitely agree with you.
so after high school, you went to college. Was it in Wisconsin somewhere?
Illinois.
Okay, now were you on football scholarship or you played basketball scholarship?
4 years of basketball at Knox College in Illinois, Galesburg, Illinois. Very close to Iowa. Closest city that people may know is Peoria, Illinois. Home of Sean Livingston, basketball player.
You used to play for the Clippers.
Yes.
Had a bad injury.
Tore everything in his knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sean Livingston, also NBA championship champion Sean Livingston. His hometown. His hometown Peoria is the biggest kind of city that was close towards us. So we were in somewhat of a college town for my whole 4 years of school.
So going from Los Angeles to the Midwest was kind of like a culture shock for you.
Yeah. To this day, my friends who are going to watch this podcast still tell me, I have Crocs on now, but the biggest culture change was, bro, I don't know why I would go out there in flip-flops. I would think, in snow, rain, sleet, it didn't matter. I was trying to prove something like, I'm not really worried about
You're a Cali boy, huh?
Yeah, it was bad. Me and the other Cali guy, at least I wore sweats. Blake used to just wear a shirt, shorts, in 40-degree weather. So, it was a really big culture shock. And one thing that Galesburg really taught me, bro, it was just, when life moves slow, I really loved it. Midwest life, how quiet it is, how slow.
Peaceful also.
Bro, oh my gosh, man. I love Los Angeles. I love our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is relatively quiet. But, helicopters, Saturday night, you got the burnouts on any street from Florence to Manchester, Crenshaw. Then you got the sirens, and it could get, it's not annoying, but once you kind of track it back to Midwest, bro, it's quiet. It's peace and quiet.
Yeah, I did a podcast on one of my students at Uni High School. And he was a baseball player. And he ended up going to, he got a scholarship, I want to say in North Carolina, played baseball. And he said, because kids call me Mr. D at school, right? Mr. I don't think I want to leave California. I say, man, California ain't going nowhere. You can leave, go to where you got to go, then you can come back if you want to. So my point is saying is like, you were in the Midwest, Iowa, you said, right?
Illinois, Iowa. Illinois, Iowa.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's deep Midwest, man. Farm, man, big time.
Corn, bro.
And like, now didn't that kind of enlarge your territory as far as your mindset, as far as people, as far as the surroundings and all that?
William, you put it perfectly. My coach said the same thing. California, you can always come back. You got family here. You live here. You can always come back. And that was what really changed my perspective on going from prep school out here to JUCO to really just going and experiencing the world. And when it just comes, my school is a liberal arts school. And, around 2018 when I was at St. Bernard's Catholic, the world was kind of getting a little bit more changed on to announcing pronouns and being a little bit more open and liberal with life. So going there, like the culture shock wasn't just only how the pace of life was. It was also, seeing gender, how gender is displayed at that school, meeting people who don't identify as gender as a male or female. And it opened my eyes, but one thing it really taught me about, it was just life. Everybody comes with different strokes. At any time we go into class, our creative writing class, we had to write, certain things about our life. It made me very thankful and grateful for my mother, for my father, for the relationship I have and the upbringing I had bringing up. Because, I thought, going to View Park, with, how Khalil as your son with the View Park, Malik with the View Park, seeing 2-parent households with families that are thriving, that was regular. I thought it was so regular, bro.
That's the norm, right?
It's just, my first 6 years of school, what was that? So once I got to different walks of school and seeing, people having to deal with strife at home, I just, every time, I don't want to be like, compare situations, say I'm grateful, but it's just, it made me just really think down, like I've never had to have anything like that, and I've had a great life. I've traveled, my parents, through relationships and through knowing people, AAU, I traveled for basketball around the country. I was able to get a scholarship and play basketball. So, just all the type of life, like the culture shock was really just big because people are the people no matter where. In California, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin. And like you saying, that kind of thought process of, my mind expanded on life is like seeing different strokes and different walks of life. It just, and talking to people. It's amazing. Like, I loved it.
And on top of that, man, you get to understand people a whole much better way now.
Yeah.
You get to, I be telling people all the time, hey, just, especially tell fathers, just talk to your child.
Communication is so important. It's extremely important, Will. And I really, and the thing that really is like kind of crazy to me, because, in a world today where everything is so polarized, one way or the other, one other, with 2020, I'm at school, Trump gets reelected, or I'm going to school when Trump's in office, and a lot of things it's really tough to talk about because I'm at a liberal arts school and I have a bunch of friends on the baseball team and in sports that are more conservative. I have a plethora of conservative friends, and they're not bad people, but you don't get to that part without communication. You don't get to that part without talking about people about their lives. And one thing that kind of everywhere hurt my own school was no one communicated, left or right. No one really wanted to come down to a situation like we're doing now, sitting down and talking about what our disagreements are, talking about life, this and that. And a lot of people can find agreements in life and comparisons in life through just a few words, bro. So I think that was like just communication and being open to talking to everybody at my school really helped me, my perception and kind of my life and with experience.
When I was coaching, I used to tell the kids, I said, look, we can agree to disagree, but not be disagreeable.
Yeah.
Okay, now, man, look, now we talked about your great life, man. There's some challenges somewhere along your road, aren't there?
Yeah, just, as great as it does sound, the challenge is discipline. Doing the right thing at the right times, and one thing I try to, kind of get across the next generation also is, you have to do the tough things, and the tough things in life are the regular things. Being a scholar athlete, working out by yourself, being at home, so a regular challenge, I would say every day, challenge. Before we go to sleep, me and my brother have to do 100 push-ups, 50 sit-ups. Or other way around, 50 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, every night. No matter what, if we was playing a game, we have to stop at one point before we go to sleep, do that. And, it didn't hit me until now, and when I'm thinking about my work ethic and why I like to work out so much, or like every now and then I'll have a break of working out and getting back to working out. Like those challenges, of, okay, I have to finish a set. I can't cheat myself in a set, because if I cheat myself, what about my dad seeing? What about I'm cheating myself working out wise? I won't be good enough for my football team. I won't be strong enough to block. So certain things like that is like, as small as the challenge as it is, as you get older, fitness, doing, a lot of people gets lost, 100 sit-ups, 150 push-ups. And that's just a little thing you can do to impact your life just so you can stay fit. And that's something, my dad challenged me at a young age, especially going to school, which was tough. Being a, C's were mediocre. My dad and my mom didn't like C's. So having to be a 3-point something student without having the luxury to play video games during the week. Couldn't play video games, couldn't really deal with certain things. So it's just, as these challenges may sound very menial, what they did teach me is discipline. And you don't get to where you are in life without discipline.
Yeah, you ever thought, as you spoke with other, your friends, either local or back in Illinois, that didn't have a father, like Have you ever thought like how your life would have been if you didn't have your father in your life? Did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, it did because, my first major was gender and women's studies. And, so that kind of definitely helped my perspective on my mom. If I didn't have my father, life definitely be a bit tougher through the fact that I'd have to learn a lot. I had to learn a lot harder because life would have been teaching me so much more and smacking me up the head rather than, my dad giving me these lessons and kind of giving me a bit more game to kind of navigate life. Because my mom worked extremely hard from her regular degree to her master's. So life would be different, but I don't think it would be so much different. I think I give my mom a lot of credit for the job she's done and being able to navigate corporate world.
Oh yeah, she's more than amazing.
Yeah, she's a boss.
Let me ask you this, man. So, do you have any challenges with gang membership? Being a gang banger?
Yeah, because it runs in our family. I hate to get into it, but my dad's side of the family. Once my dad moved from Compton, he moved to the Jungles, and a lot of us fall prey to the environment of gang banging, and that's why I'm talking about discipline. The hard choices, doing the hard thing, going to school, being a basketball player. Because did I deal with it? Yes. Was I ever going to join? No, because I knew the affiliation from my father and how their aspect on gaming, because they lived it in the 80s and 90s. So when I was going to school, after I left V Park, I transferred to a school called Alliance College Ready Miller Academy. Alliance is really big in Los Angeles and charters, but this was a fairly new one in the middle of Crenshaw and Florence, really in the cut. And one thing that taught me, bro, is just, biggest gang, not the biggest gang, but one of the biggest gangs in Los Angeles, Rolling 60s. That's right on our doorstep. So with that, this is like daily, everybody's parents, are gangbangers, there are big cousins of gangbangers. So these kids are starting to bleed over into their lives.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of kids who are extremely, extremely intelligent. May not have been book smart, but common sense and street smarts. I've seen a lot of kids who fell prey to, the gangbanging in the jail system very early. So would I say I was, at prey? I was around it, but I knew better. I knew if I, come home or try to bring any of those type of friends home or be around a lot of those friends, it would be a lot of not smart decision.
Yeah, and I'm sure your mom and dad wouldn't want that.
That's a no. And really, it's big because I got my name from my uncle who sadly died, passed away from a gang violence shooting, which he was, he was a part of a gang growing up. So with that, I just felt like my history with my family, with my dad, what my father's father did with the Nation of Islam in Los Angeles, helping Malcolm X open a lot of the Nation of Islam and start the branches in Los Angeles. With my uncle dying, Jamie Malcolm Huff after gang death. I just think it was I could never see myself doing something like that, even if I've had friends and who have been a part of that. And this is no threat or disrespect to them because we all take different risks in different walks of life, and every walk of life has a certain risk. Now it might be different risk at that, but I think some people do fall prey to the environment. It's just
for every generation, everyone that walked this planet, there's a thing called choices.
Yeah.
You all have choices to make, and those that are in our circle, they're gonna have a big impact on the choices that we make.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people they gotta feel wanted. So and I've spoken to guys in the past that didn't have a father, and they went the gang route, and that was they would tell me that would be my OG.
Yeah.
So it would be like their father figure, man.
And it's sad, bro, because we can get deep into that and how incarceration affects, of that, and how crazy, we talking about gangs, how gang injunctions used to be when I was younger. If you had a gang tattoo, your name is written down, and now that causes more years onto your charge, whatever the charge is. So now we're taking fathers out of the homes, and like you're saying, that prospect of finding an OG, someone who's a friend of the father or might know the father, might not even know the father at all, and now you got that small OG, and a lot of OGs, really some make good decisions, some also make bad choices too, and that can bleed over to the kid who doesn't have a father and trying to look for this gang, try to look to gangs as a form of brotherhood and fatherhood. So
moving forward, man. Now, the generation has to deal with drugs and alcohol, man.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not perfect. You know, I definitely have succumbed to both, but you know, also one thing is about mediation. I think life is about balance. And one thing, you know, going to school, I didn't, you know, like I said, talking about my upbringing, I was very, very strict upbringing growing up. So, you know, going to school, having freedom allowed me to, you know, test those waters. And, you know, I've had a good time with it. I'm not going to sit here and lie like I haven't. But I will say, coming back home, you know, seeing the effects of marijuana. We can go to Western. We can walk up Western and film right now. I can, liquor store, church, a dispensary. Liquor store, church, dispensary. Barbershops, maybe, and then it's liquor store, church, dispensary.
Dozens of them.
It's just, and one thing, you know, even though I do partake, one thing my father also said, you know, it clouds the mind, you know, and this is what this is what the country and what people want. They want people like us to be, have our minds clouded, have our minds in a state of things that we are worrying about, things that aren't important. Things that truly aren't important. So,
and then the other thing, man, like when your mind is compromised, you will make certain choices and decisions, man, that can be debilitating to your entire life, man. Perfect example, man. You know, broke my heart, man. There's this boy from LSU.
Oh, Lacey.
Yeah, man. The guy, I think he's gonna go pro or something like that, right?
2 weeks about to get drafted.
Yeah, you know, and then. In his car, my understanding, he was in his car racing or whatever he was doing, ended up hitting someone and killing a guy, man.
Marine, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's a kid, 24 years old, man. He
has so much, both of us, you know, being around, there's so much more life to live, bro.
Just like the young boy, I think he was from Alabama.
Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, with the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Back to what I'm saying, about the choices that we make, man. And that's why,
Dude,
you know, when you partake, you know, into the drugs and alcohol and all that stuff, man, your mind's being compromised.
Nah,
you know, and the reason why
lying, dude.
I'm glad that you're here, man, because you're 26 years old, man, you know, and I appreciate you having the courage to come on and talk about this, man. You can tell these young brothers, man, that ain't the way to go, man.
Yeah, and realistically, you know, you gotta stay safe. But once you go down a precedent of how many kids, bro, you know, when I was young, Len Bias. You know, Len Bias is about to get drafted as the number 2 pick. Gave it to Jordan plenty of times in the ACC, and one decision could change your life.
Yeah.
So, you know, going to that, if you do partake, please do it responsibly. Please do it at the age where you're responsible enough to partake and take the right actions. But going past that, for young kids, if you need to think about decisions you're going to make in 30 seconds to a minute, because promise you, your life can change in literally from you can think everything's going well to one thing in literally a minute or two if you're not making the right choices when your mind is compromised. So please, you guys just gotta be safe, bro.
And it's just not your life that you're impacting.
Others.
You're impacting dozens, if not hundreds, man. Your family members, your friends, everybody, man, that knew and loved you, man.
And these are the things that, you know, are not thought about when someone is doing that. So, I get you.
That's my point. My whole thing is this, man. Like, you know, I'm an old timer, man. My thing is, hey, man, leave that stuff alone. I remember when I first moved out here way before you was born, maybe before your parents were born. You know, I went to this party, and I don't drink or smoke, see. You know, so I was at this party over there near La Brea and Adams, and these 2 brothers walked up to me and said, "Hey, man, you undercover?" That's what you're talking about, man. Hey, man, we've been looking at you, man. You ain't drinking, you ain't smoking, you ain't doing nothing, man. I said, man, look at, I get high on life, man.
This is so hilarious, and not because of the situation. So going back to the father, you know, my dad was staunch, same way, bro. Don't drink, don't smoke, none of it. So and so I'd have to deal with these, you know, butting heads when I came back, you know, and I would partake, and you know, definitely be in Los Angeles partaking. It would just be like, bro, why do you need to get high off anything? You should be high off life. It's the same, literally these same words. These same words. So I definitely hear it.
See, what you don't understand because you're not a father, as far as I know you're not a father.
No, sir. No, sir.
Hey, man, a father wants nothing but the best for their children, man, boys and girls, man. And we know that, you know, these drugs that will do malfunctioning in your brain, man, will make you make some
poor decisions, bro.
Man,
poor decisions.
Hey, talk about having DUI on your record.
Yeah, poor decisions, bro.
If you're applying for a job, man, have you ever had a DUI?
You gotta put that out because they're gonna ask, have you ever had some felony? You can't say no because they find out after the fact jobs.
And so these are the challenges of being a father, man, because we especially with the boys, man, because mommies can teach the girls, man, because they know what it is to be a girl. See, we have no idea what it is to be a girl, but we know what it's to be a boy, man, and all that stuff that's out there waiting for us, man.
Yeah, and you want to keep your son out of trouble. And now I say you have to say and be taking it, but let's steer him away because you said before. Your son is gonna make decisions, you know, but definitely have to steer them in the right way of, you know, boom, boom, and let them know the consequences of decisions if you do make certain bad decisions or good decisions.
And you want them to make their own decisions. I was, you know, I used to tell my children, there's no such thing as good and bad decisions. You make decisions, and you learn. It's a life lesson from each one of them. If it's so-called good one, I want to keep that in mind. I want to. If you want to sign your best interest, I think I want to do it. You have to learn.
Absolutely right.
If you don't pass the test, you got to go take that class again.
Absolutely right, man. And this goes really deep because, like, I think one thing that I've done a good job of at this age, you know, at least from the ages of 22, 25, is being perceptive and learning that every loss isn't a loss; it's a lesson. You gotta think back and remember and think and one. Way our judicial system works off precedent, you know, same way I think you can relate that to your own life. Because if you have certain lessons in life, you're gonna run into certain things over and over again.
Absolutely.
But if you continue to make the wrong decision at this lessons, God's gonna find a way to bring back the certain situation again in your favor, not in your favor, but into your face and say, how are we gonna get past this road bump again? What decisions are we gonna make?
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different.
Insanity.
It's insanity. So let's move forward, man. So now you graduated from college, man, and now you're a school teacher now.
Yeah. Whew, yeah.
You know you follow my steps as being a PE teacher.
Yeah. Shout out Latier Academy of Excellence. Shout out Miss Tate.
So now you have these young kids looking up to you now.
Oh, man.
You're the role model.
It is so hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's so hard because I love each and every one of the kids I teach daily, and you know, even at the bad times, you know, because I don't have a child yet, and I call them my children. They're like, Mr. Bray, you have children? I'm like, no, I teach you guys so you guys are serving my children, and it's about 10 to 12 years of age in between all of us, in between, you know, majority of the kids, but realistically, what's so crazy to me is just like, dude, anything I do, you know, is like, okay, it's taken very in consideration to the kids, you know, more or less like I have to watch what I say.
They're watching every move you make.
Watch mannerisms I do. Watch certain jokes I have to say. You know, it's like sometimes it can be like walking on eggshells, but you know, going back to relating earlier, talking about my father said, you give me a ear to listen to when I wasn't happy. You know, I think one of the things with teaching that I'm really good at, I think I've been getting better at, I didn't say good at, but I think I've been getting better at, is hearing kids out, you know, and finding ways to find solutions, being solution-based with kids, because a lot of times I see older faculty just shut kids down, easily just shut them down. And to a degree, yes, they need that. They definitely need that, because, you know, I had times when my mama shut me down. I had times I'll be able to talk to my father. So, you know, I definitely do think the kids also need to be heard a little bit when they're feeling anxious or angry or feeling sad. Because I think if you don't talk to these kids, you know, they don't have, a lot of them don't have that outlet at home.
You took words out my mouth, man.
They
Some of them don't have a father figure or a big brother figure to where they can bounce things off of, man.
There's no outlet to talk about their feelings, bro.
And with you being a black male teacher, that's a whole different perspective right there.
And one thing, because Latier is majority black and Latin, populace, and being a young black male at the school definitely has come with its challenges, but also what it comes with is a lot of kids trust what I say because they're seeing another teacher or seeing a faculty member who has been in the same district as them, who has been at their age when cell phones introduced to the classroom. So it's like certain things that they've already been through, and certain things they're trying to get off on and deceive me of it, deceive other teachers of, like, I've been through that before. So that's why, and that's why when they get in trouble, like, I try to it's not reasonable, but I try to get on to their level, because, like, dude, I've been in your spot before. You can't tell me your phone wasn't out, and I've done the same pose to try to hide from a teacher. Like, I see you, bro. So it's like that, and then the second thing I want to get off, man, just when they get in trouble, preparing them for life. Because, of course, school rules are in place for us to follow rules when we get outside of school. But when kids do not follow school rules and ask why is it this rule, why, and they ask me why, how do you feel about that, I have to let them know, because I have to prepare you, even if I'm only going to be in your life for 8 months, 12 months, 16 months. I have to prepare you for when I don't see you. Prepare you for having integrity, doing the right thing when Mr. Bray isn't around, not doing the right thing because I'm around, speaking to people the correct way, not cursing in front of me because it's just Mr. Bray, not cursing because you don't want to talk to somebody like that. Mm-hmm. You never know what can happen, what can happen after when you use foul language, when you use very, very vulgar language to somebody. You never know. You can never control somebody's response. So certain things I try to prepare them for life. On top of making sure they're taking care of their schoolwork and taking care of things they need to do in school. But me personally, I just think trying to prepare them for life.
Well, you just like your dad taught you things when you were young. As you got older and these things came to pass, you said, "Oh, that's what Pops was talking about." Now you're planting the same seed.
At least twice a week with my pops, bro. Same way, like, that's what he meant. So now, like I said, and looking at another podcast clip on my Instagram, saw a guy named Deontay Kyle talking about, a lot of kids, they might not have a voice, like a conscience in the back of their head. Luckily, my mom implanted in that early, if it's not your own voice, let it be my voice before you make a bad decision. Yeah. And over time, it's become my voice in the back of my head, talking to my conscience. A lot of these kids, we don't know if they developed a conscience. So when they're making decisions, and this has happened so many times in school, a kid will make a decision, and I ask them, why'd you do that? I don't know. And it's like, so we try to work through the situation. I try to work through the steps he made to get there. And it's like, you still don't understand where we're having a problem at. And the kid will still be like, I don't get it. And that's what makes me think to that conscious part, like, do kids have a voice in the back of their head letting them know, okay, this isn't a good idea. So then now you're talking about, relating this back to, giving the seeds. I hope, if I'm here next year, if I'm there years after that, or if I'm not, that kids, when they do think I'm about to make a bad decision, if it's not their voice in the back of my head, if it's not my voice in the back of their head, it's their own voice in the back of their head, just kind of thinking about, is this a good decision? So, it's...
Well, and you will, man, because I have about half a dozen kids that still keep in touch with me. I just got a call just this past week. This guy was, he got the scholarship, played baseball in North Carolina, got his degree there, went to Houston to get his master's degree. I think he's like 26 or 28 now. He called to check up on me, see how am I doing. So
it's a blessing, man.
Yeah, So, you plant seeds, man, and well, see, you're blessed. See, when you do have children, if you ever decide on having children one day, you got pretty much a head start, from your pops, mom and pops. Grandparents part of your life?
Sadly not, man. I had one grandma. Sadly, she passed away about 2 or 3 years ago from cancer. But I really wanted a granddad bad, bro.
Yeah.
I really wanted a grandfather bad. Like, and when kids talking about, oh man, I kicked through it. Well, we had a family house. Both my grandparents were there. Like, it definitely bothered me as a kid.
Yeah.
So, and with my dad doing the absolute best, like, I ain't gonna say, it definitely took my mind off it. So, once I do have kids, I do plan on having children, they're gonna have an amazing grandfather.
Well, man, your dad's a Superman,
bro.
And I tell people all the time. I say, look, there's no perfect father, see, We're not perfect, you know, but what we're perfect at is being the best fathers that we can be. And from listening to your experiences, man, you're gonna be the best father because you know teaching. You're a father figure anyway, whether you know that or not, man. As a teacher or coaches and father figures. I know when I was teaching elementary school, man, the kids would come running to me, man. Come run.
Yeah, because as I did do PE this first year, I did long-term subbing at the same school for general education 5th grade. So I definitely understand what you mean and how you feel. Because last year, you know, the group that I worked with, sadly, you know, they didn't have a steady teacher from 3rd to 5th. It was a sub. And these are critical years. And mind you, so these kids are going through COVID with no critical thinking skills, no teacher who's sitting there and teaching them these things from 3rd to 4th to 5th. So with that, you know, with me being there and me showing up every day, even days when it's harder I didn't want to, I think one thing I showed the kids who are now my 6th graders in my PE class, it was I cared. And when a lot of teachers would come collect a check or they would be there for a little bit and then they quit on them, it showed I cared. And with that, you know, I know I'm able to talk to them and get through to them because it was certain situations last year where school wanted to give up on a lot of those kids too. And they weren't helping them. They weren't helping themselves either. It's not like, you know, they were doing well in school, didn't care. They weren't helping themselves in problems and, you know, behavior things, but
they didn't have the tools at home, man. You know, the mom and dad, or maybe just the mom, whoever it might be. You know,
but you know, just showing that I care, I think really kind of won the kids over. And then now with the 7th and 8th graders, you know, it's been a little bit more difficult, but being able to show that I can listen to them, I can learn and listen to them also when they feel like other teachers can't do that. And I'm not sure if that's really the kind of problem, but one thing I do notice at my school when I do talk to the kids, you know, they are much more receptive to have a conversation, not just one-sided, where they're giving me, I'm learning things about them, and they're talking, and I'm talking, and they're learning things about my life. So,
well, you know, and by doing that, you know, as they move forward, they will learn about how to communicate as well.
Yeah.
You know,
and a little just telling about, you know, college. I think one thing, you know, a lot of the kids in my school, they don't really, you know, they haven't seen it, and they don't. Some of them have the idea I want to go to college. Some of them don't really know what college is, but they definitely want to go. So they ask me questions. How was college? How was your 4 years? Where did you go? What school did you go to? So me being there and able to give them that information, I think that also just helps them.
Well, it's priceless, man. Yeah, you're showing them an avenue that they never seen or heard before. Mm-hmm. You know, so hey, man. So we're about to wrap this thing up, man. To a young man that's listening or watching this podcast, man, what would you tell them if they about the value of being a father? Even though you're not a father, you're a father figure. The value of being a father to their children, man. What would you say to someone your age?
Just communication. I think that's just been such a pillar of my life. If you know, from 18 to now at 20, about to turn 26 this upcoming year. It's just communication. You might not get on the right foot with every kid. You might not get on the right foot with your child. You might disagree on certain things, but I think once you get down to the core thing of talking through it, finding the solution. Solutions are found through communication.
Absolutely.
And being able to communicate properly, without cursing, without a clouded mind, without bias. Being able to communicate with those 4 things, you'll find solutions. You'll find a lot of problems much easier, and your relationships will be a little bit better when you talk about things and we find a solution together rather than one side and the other. And it is okay to disagree about things, but do not, like you said, be disagreeable.
And, you know, and understanding that there's going to be times where you may not find a solution at that time. You know, but still keep our mind open.
Yes.
And understand. I tell your kids, I used to tell my kids all the time, I love you more than you love yourself. I'm sure your parents may have told you the same thing before, or maybe said it differently.
But you know, and one thing I love about, you know, parents and giving their wisdom and things you might not understand about that, like you said, it don't hit you until about 5-10 years later. You be like, that's what you meant about that, and then like I said, being able to have those communications with those talks and conversations with your parents about bro, I just got what you said 5 years ago. And my mom and dad just laughing at me like, yeah. Like, I wasn't lying, bro. I wasn't telling you nothing wrong.
We ain't making stuff up. We've been there, man. We know what it's all about.
When your parents find out you're finding, well, listen, when your parents and people who have known you since a kid find out about you're kind of succeeding and you're dealing with life, it's just amazing. Like I said, like working with my brother, working, in these gyms, I'm seeing people who've known me since I was 6 years old. That's how you doing? I'm like, bro, I'm just taking it one day at a time, finding out about life. The smile on their face goes from here to here, rather than me telling them, oh, I'm just doing okay. Because they know how every adult knows how life can be. And when they see you're on your journey on life, I think they that makes my heart warm that they understand. Life can be tough, but you're doing it, bro.
You're tougher.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
So
this last thing, man. What would you tell? Like we just talked about these boys. This one boy's in jail for a long time up in Las Vegas, and this other boy committed suicide. What would you tell a young man right now when life is going really hard for them, man? What would you say to them? What words from a young man to another young man that you've had some rough times,
Yeah, I mean, take it one day at a time, bro. And with that one day, you gotta plan things throughout your day that you get a routine on. For me, working out is my main thing. When say if I am feeling or I'm partaking too much, my mind's feel clouded, one thing that always gets me going is working out. So finding a routine and finding something to do daily to get yourself through one day, and then one day becomes 2 days, and 2 days becomes 7. 7 becomes a month, then a month becomes a year. So if it's not working out, reading. If it's not reading, giving your life to God. Getting that book, reading scripture, finding yourself and your passions and your life through the book. I think that's one thing I've struggled on, but I'm trying to get better with too. But just finding something throughout the day and get a routine going. And one thing that I've been doing well with, committing myself to the gym. I think that's definitely has helped me keep my life more online, giving myself not giving up on myself and showing up for myself daily, one day at a time, working out. So I think that's really the biggest thing. Just finding something where you feel like you can't give up on yourself. You have to push yourself to do something. You gotta find something you love to do. Because once you find out one thing where you want to give yourself, you want to keep doing it. One day turns into, like you said, into a year in a matter of a minute. And then a year turns into 5. And you got decades. Then you got just finding yourself and giving yourself to one thing and giving yourself to focus on that one thing, in my opinion.
I neglected to mention your big brother, man.
Most amazing guy ever, bro. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk about Malik that much, bro, but I promise you, if it wasn't, having a great father, bro, there's nobody in the world I can ask for a better big brother. I swear.
How about that, man?
I can never ask for a better big brother. And even where I'm at now, bro, I'm able to work with my brother because of during COVID, he gave me opportunity to work as an intern. And now I work as an intern, so now I'm doing whole videography for his AAU team and their business.
Isn't he a college professor now? Right?
So this dude got his regular degree, got his master's, both from APU. Then he is teaching he's a college professor, teaching at Santa Monica College while coaching the men's head basketball program. So, if you need an example on, how to try to chase after somebody, like I've always done, it's my brother. Like he's been amazing.
That's
been amazing. But before we even get off here, your son and my brother's relationship, along with Milligan's son, and seeing that at a young age, also you can have a group of young men be friends, be boys, and play, and you don't see it often. So I really do thank you, and it's so crazy. It all comes full circle. I remember walking to this house plenty of times during the summer, coming to see his son Khalil with my brother, just tagging along, playing chess in here. So certain things like that, these little nuggets and things I see about life, and I just remember it. And having young black men be able to be boys with fathers, and having sleepovers, you're bringing your son up to play at Rita Waters with Milligan and all them. It was seeing that at a young age, being 4 years younger than him, bro. Those are things I don't forget. And these are things that I want for my children, and these are things I want for my, for my future to kind of be able to do, bro. Because you guys set the families at V Park and the families of my brother and his friends. You guys set the groundwork. and it was amazing.
So now we're gonna pass the baton to you guys, right?
Oh yes. Oh please, yeah. And
that's good. Good to hear.
And it's not. I promise you. I hope you talk to Milligan. You know, I hope you talk to Michael Milligan Jr. Hope you get Malik on here so you can ask him about those times. But promise you, I remember those times like it was yesterday, bro. Having sleepovers, having 4 or 5 of them all at our house before at one time. playing GameCube, playing Nintendo GameCube.
Okay,
Like, I remember everything, bro. And it's amazing. It's a blessing. That's really what it is.
That's good, man. We're gonna wrap this thing up, man. And once again, this young man, good young man. He's very honest, very transparent. Expressing his love to his mom and his dad. Also talked about some of the challenges that he has had that he's working on as well. So
thank you for having me on. I appreciate this.
Okay, I might have you come back.
Please
again.
do.
Yeah.
Please do. I mean, I really thank the fact that you let me be on your platform and be able to talk about this, dude. Because we had a really good talk at that men's seminar. So I'm glad we were able to follow.
Yeah, I need to get younger guys because not too many people here. The old gray-haired man,
I'll definitely see what I can do about bringing more guests on if I
That
can.
would be great.
Because this is
okay.
amazing.
We're signing out, guys. So we're good, my brother.
This is amazing.